Driving an impressive 38 hours straight from Fontana, California, Jesse Todd finally made it to Fort Lauderdale. Both hands stiffened on the steering wheel. His knuckles practically tore through his clammy hands. He couldn't care less. Nearly 2 days ago, he entered the intensive care wing of Kaiser Permanente to pick up Skip, his brother, best friend, and business partner, whose leukemia had gone into remission. Jesse arrived early and unannounced to surprise his brother, only to witness Skip in a passionate lip lock with Laura, Jesse's fiancée. Situations such as this were entirely new to Jesse. It had already been a difficult year and a half since Skip told him about his illness, but Jesse remained positive, constantly showing support for his brother, being the shoulder he could most rely on. Too many emotions flooded through Jesse, as well as questions.
How long has this been going on? I thought Laura hated Skip. And where did he get all that energy? Laura's a big girl. He's really going at it.
Instead of yelling or punching, Jesse stared at his twin brother, nostrils flaring, eyes forward.
Have a good life.
He bolted past the receptionist's desk to the parking lot, into his beat-up, rust-colored VW bus, and headed east. Jesse had no idea where he was going. The tank was full, as the plan was to take Skip to mini-golf after breakfast. Now he had no idea. He thought that when he made it to Las Vegas he might stop, but he was too emotionally unconscious to notice when he passed it. He would get gas when he needed, stopping for nothing else otherwise. The thought burst in while passing through Austin, Texas.
It's March. That's spring break for most people. I could go for a spring break.
Deciding to drop out of college last fall, while knowing what he knew from MTV and various shows, spring break was an American tradition where everyone engaged in wild behavior for a week, then went back to working towards normal. On his next gas trip, Jesse bought a Thomas guide, quickly leafing through it until he came to a map of America, frantically searching for the spring break mecca that was Fort Lauderdale. His eyes lit up on his discovery that he'd been going in its direction the whole time. Honking his horn in triumph as he crossed the state line of Florida seemed to summon a storm that only got worse the further he got in. Jesse took the first exit after passing the Welcome to Fort Lauderdale highway sign. The rain was pouring heavy. Both headlights died out, making it nearly impossible to see when a creature jetted out in front of him, causing Jesse to swerve and get stuck in a pothole. He furiously pressed the gas pedal, but it was to no avail. Jesse zipped up his navy blue hoodie, put the car in neutral, then exited to push the bus free. He made it to the back of the car, but just as he put both hands out, the creature leapt at his right side. Jesse could feel the creature biting into his neck while its claws dug into his ribcage. The pain and shock were too much, and the world went black. His eyes opened slowly, finding himself in a white tuxedo on a white couch in a white room.
Wow, dying's exactly like I thought it'd be. That's kind of disappointing. I shouldn't look a gift horse in the mouth, though. I could have gone to the other place.
He felt the part of his neck where he was bitten. It was perfectly healed, as were his ribs. Looking around the room, he found a red button marked assistance. After buzzing it, the door opened. Non-aged versions of his preschool teacher, Mrs. Hill, and his 6th grade PE teacher, Mr. North, entered.
Mrs. H, Mr. N, good to see ya. So you must have died too, huh? That's a bummer. Shush, darling. You're not dead, and neither are we.
It's actually far more complicated than that.
Sit up straight now.
First things first. The creature that attacked you was a lycanthrope, commonly known as a werewolf. Jesse nodded slowly.
But the good news is that you were discovered and cleaned up.
35 years ago, the lichen population grew to a boiling point. A worldwide global branch was created, tasked with the protection of the species.
They decided to round up every wolf and launch them into space,
using the Apollo missions as a smokescreen. You still with us, kiddo?
Am I ever?
The werewolves thrived on the moon, creating a full society of 48 private. Are you sure you understand this?
Yeah, werewolves, moon colonies. I dig it. You're being awfully calm about all of this.
That's because I think this is some sort of Jacob's Ladder scenario. You two are like death dream people. You're kind of right. We aren't really here.
We're part of a program.
So it's a Tron scenario. Everything we told you is true. However, you are in an induced coma, hooked up to a virtual reality machine aboard a shuttle to the moon.
Your brain was scanned for the best way to deliver this news, and we were the two figures in your subconscious deemed to be the least threatening.
Good job. I still don't believe any of it.
I'm so sorry, but we've run out of time. We're furthest out from the Earth's orbit now, so we have to conclude this part of the orientation.
What? He was yanked out of the white room, finding himself, now dressed in a yellow jumpsuit, in the middle row of what seemed to be airline seats. A double seat belt crossed his chest. Jesse looked around. There were 6 rows of 3, but he counted 8 passengers, including himself. VR goggles lifted off the woman to his left and retracted to the ceiling. She turned to Jesse, smiling.
How was that for an in-flight movie?
No kidding. She extended her hand.
Candace.
Jesse. She had kind green eyes and short red hair. He couldn't explain it, but when they touched hands, Jesse felt an immediate connection. Have we met before? Ah! The screams of terror came from the row of seats in front of Jesse and Candace to the right. It was an overweight man in a bright red tracksuit, drooling and shaking violently. Somebody get this guy help! Jesse tried to unbuckle his seatbelt, but he was stuck. Candace put a hand on his shoulder.
It's okay. He's just transforming.
What? My face is on fire! Ah! The bones in the man's face stretched forward, contorting into a snout. Jesse shut his eyes, looking away, while gripping his handrests. Not cool, not cool, not cool, not cool. Candace grabbed Jesse's hand.
Look at me.
Jesse opened his eyes, focusing on Candace.
The further we get from the Earth, the closer we get to the moon, the faster the transformations.
Around him, Jesse could hear more screams from the other passengers.
Stay focused on me. There are 4 different types of species of werewolves.
Oh, man.
The guy up there and everyone in his section, they're called bakers. It's a violent transformation, but when it's over, it's over. They'll go back to their pretzels and pop, I promise.
Jesse looked around, noticing that everyone was wearing a different colored tracksuit. He and Candace were in yellow. The bakers were red. A couple in powder blue to the left of Candace started writhing as their eyes glowed.
Those are Winston's. Not as bad a change as a baker, but it's still rough.
What about us?
Look at your hands, but don't freak out, promise?
Jesse put up his hands. They were now huge, with thick brown fur all over, except for his palms. His nails were razor sharp. He realized that fur was everywhere. He felt his face. It was bigger and hairier. His nose was now wet and leathery like a dog's. His ears pointed. He flipped open the mirror on the back of the seat in front of him to see his full visage. He smiled. Rows of pointed teeth were affixed to this new smile. Jeez Louise.
Aw, you're cute.
He turned to Candace, expecting to see the same version as himself. Instead, she just grew pointed ears and furry sideburns. The only extra body hair she had were the red patches on the back of her hands. That's not fair.
Well...
She adjusted in her seat, setting free her long bushy red tail. Touché.
Welcome to the moon, Jesse.
You just listened to Werewolves on the Moon, Episode 1, Jesse. This audio drama was written, recorded, performed, and edited by Drew Manning. If you liked what you heard, please stay tuned to this channel. Thank you for your time, and have a great one.